Dude, Bethesda is so annoying. Like, you'd think that overall public sentiment, animosity for people, companies, organizations, whatever, would, in most cases, decay pretty quickly in most scenarios, even where especially egregious, poor people melting childhood harvesting corpos like Bethesda were concerned. That once whatever news cycle that had directed the public's ire wrapped, people would forget why they were pissed or annoyed rather quickly. In fact, we've witnessed this phenomenon with relative frequency, especially in the games industry. One minute it's Twitter hashtags and calls to boycott filling up the timeline, and the next it's, "That's a mighty fine game you got there, Corpo, excuse me while I debase myself and my personal finances so that you may better take advantage of me. I do so love a good raping." But Bethesda, at least to me, is not one of those companies. For whatever reason, they remain as annoying day in and day out as the very first day they pissed you off. Whether you've been a Bethesda abuse victim since the olden days of horse armor, or just a recent convert, perhaps after having your capacity for empathy surgically removed by Fallout 76, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's just something about Bethesda that's so fucking annoying. Now, in fairness, I may just hate Todd Howard and have let that color my entire perception of the company, but I don't think so. There's just something too fucking smarmy about him, something too self-satisfied and smug. I cannot stand it. They just always seem to be there, lurking just out of frame in almost every industry story. Even now, while this video started out as a quick update to the Doom Eternal / Mick Gordon story, I couldn't even finish what little research was needed for it without stumbling over yet another goddamn story reminding me just how fucking annoying Bethesda is. Even if they aren't talking about themselves in yet another obsequious self-funded interview, someone else out there probably is. And in this case, that someone else was Phil Spencer, speaking to The Verge for their Decoder podcast. Oh, fucking hooray. Seems our bad buddy in the mix, Phil Spencer, felt the need to remind us all that in another universe, perhaps one not so closely resembling hell, had Starfield stuck to its initial release date, we'd all be playing it right now. Oh, well, thanks for that, Phil. That's fantastic. Not only is that annoying on its face, who wants to be reminded how much they're not playing something? But it is also yet another great example of how so many of these so-called interviews function as little more than advertisements or Billy Mays-style infomercials for companies and their games.
Billy Mays here with another fantastic product!
On the topic of Starfield, there could have been an interesting discussion here. Let's talk about the importance of balancing fan expectations, or how a company like Bethesda leverages support from a larger parent company like Xbox in a situation like this, or maybe about how much influence the parent company has in these decisions. But no, instead, the topic of Starfield and its delay moved immediately into the standard corpo doublespeak, by which I mean saying nothing somehow does the double job of covering the company's tracks while also advertising themselves. And oh boy, were we treated to a master class in it when Phil commented, "When you look at a game like Starfield, which has taken so long and so much investment in new IP from the team, the decision to give the team the time to build the game that they felt they should be building is just the right thing to do because I, Phil Spencer, am just the world's biggest fucking altruist, right? Is that the case, Phil Spencer? That's awesome." He also made sure to remind us that Starfield is an expansive and huge new IP that supposedly marks a huge technological leap. And that it was important for him to make sure that the team felt they had all the support they could get from Xbox. Why are you even here, dude? You could have just posted the Shiggy meme and called it a fucking day. Spared us all the fucking trouble, for fuck's sake. But enough about that, let's get back to the current fiasco of the week, Doom Eternal and Bethesda's ongoing valiant struggle to crush the reputation and future business prospects of a single dude who was, as far as we can tell, guilty of nothing more but trying to get paid for some awesome work that he did. Now, if you missed our last episode, that dude is the fantastic composer Mick Gordon, who, after scoring the fucking shit out of Doom Eternal a few years ago, found himself the target of a truly gross smear campaign instigated by id Software's Marty Stratton in a desperate and pathetic attempt to misdirect blame for the game's botched OST release off of himself and id Software and onto, of course, Mick Gordon. The absurdity and utterly infuriating subtext to this whole stupid story is the fact that this was yet again a completely unforced error on the part of the Corpo video game establishment and id Software. Y'all could have just paid this man for his work and shelled out the extra bands it would have cost to have him properly do the arrange, mix, and master the OST. But no, y'all decide to capitalism it the fuck up and try to save a few bucks by cutting a bootleg OST and throwing Mick Gordon under the bus when people noticed. And to no one's surprise, it blew the fuck up in their face when Mick Gordon decided to defend himself, oh god, the audacity, right? And dumped out all the receipts all over the timeline. Uh-oh, aside to a story being posted that's not completely on the side of the corpo establishment, sounds like a job for Bethesda comms people. And so it was that Bethesda entered the chat, making sure to keep this whole shit show very much public and very much alive in the very professional arena of social media by posting the following where else but on Twitter. They start by saying, the recent post by Mick Gordon both mischaracterized and misrepresented the team at id Software, the development of Doom Eternal, Marty Stratton, and Chad Mossholder with a one-sided and unjust account of an irreparable professional relationship. Okay, and the evidence of that is where? Oh, I get it, we're just supposed to take your word for it, okay, gotcha. They continue. We are aware of the details and history in this matter and unequivocally support Marty, Chad, and the team at id Software. We reject the distortion of the truth and selective representation of incomplete facts. Gotta put facts in quotes these days, huh? We stand ready with full and complete documented evidence to disclose in an appropriate venue as needed. Ho ho ho!
Fiction can be fun, but I find the reference section much more enlightening.
Now that's interesting. Bethesda's saying they got receipts too. And to anyone saying, well, why don't they just post them here? Like, you do realize as a corporation, they're not just gonna straight up post what could be evidence used in a court case or litigation on the timeline, right? Like, I know I was joking earlier about them responding to this whole thing on social media and all, and I stand by that, but you gotta be realistic. They're not just gonna post what could be legal documents on a public platform, at least not at this stage. They go on to say, the statements posted online have incited harassment and threats of violence against Marty, Chad, and the id Software team. Any threats or harassment directed towards members of our teams will be met with swift and appropriate action to protect their health and safety. Oh, for fuck's sake, this again. Interesting that you corpos only seem to be concerned in protecting your employees' health and safety when you can conveniently leverage it for your own agenda and not, for example, when forcing them to work overtime for shit wages and shit conditions. Okay. But incited threats of violence? Come on. Really? Now, don't get it twisted, there is plenty of online and media activity that incites or indirectly calls for violence. Stochastic terrorism is a real thing, just watch Fox News. But trying to paint this as though Mick Gordon coming out in defense of himself and the way he was treated by a huge corporation is somehow causing violent threats against people at id Software is fucking ridiculous, and even worse, a standard move by these people when trying to shut down, silence, introduce doubt, or otherwise invalidate discourse. Have there been a few fringe, broke-brain retards and nut jobs who may have DM'd id Software or some of the people involved in this story saying some insane, violent, deranged shit? I'm sure there have, but let's not forget, this is the fucking internet, where anonymity has reign and brings out the psychopathy lurking in so many mentally unwell people. If we banned or shut down any stories or topics that caused fringe violent threats, the internet would be empty. But as far as people messaging public figures involved with this and perhaps not always being polite, I don't give a shit. If you're a public figure on the internet, that's the job, chief. That's what you signed up for. You certainly get paid well enough to do it. I don't care if your feelings are hurt. I'm sorry, people's feelings get hurt every day. You aren't special. Now, that being said, anyone actually threatening violence is indeed a damaged, dangerous person and needs to get the fuck off the internet, seek help, or maybe even be locked up. No doubt about that. And you know what? Everyone agrees on that, Bethesda, so maybe let's cool with the reactionary pearl clutching, shall we? They wrap up this sad assault on the English language by saying, we remain incredibly proud of id's collaborations with Mick Gordon and ask that fans refrain from reaching conclusions based on his account and, more importantly, from attacking any of the individuals mentioned on either side, including Marty, Chad, or Mick. Ha ha ha. Yes, that's all very nice, very stunning and brave, guys. But back here in reality, we know that this is nothing more than a bunch of legally necessary corpo doublespeak, covering their asses while also not so subtly begging customers to not rule out giving them more money in the future. It's the soulless, focus grouped comms guy reply I think we are all expecting, and what's interesting about it is nothing. God, Bethesda, you're so fucking annoying.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Yup, woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt.